What's up, you guys? Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to all my brothers and all the subscribers out there been listening to this channel from day one, man. Much love to y'all. So tonight is going to be game one between the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Brooklyn Nets. And in this video here, I'm going to give you guys my preview of what to expect in this series. Now, many people have considered this series right here to be the de facto Eastern Conference Finals because these are two teams that are basically championship caliber teams. The Milwaukee Bucks, have been in the last 2 years underachieving expectations when they've been the number one seed in the conference, and they made the conference finals back in 2019 and fell short against the Toronto Raptors with Kawhi Leonard. 2020, obviously they got swept by the Miami Heat. After Giannis injured his ankle and they were pretty much dead in the water. But this series right here is going to be very, very intriguing. Now, in the last few times that they met each other during the regular season this year in their regular season series, um, the Brooklyn Nets basically took one game back in January, and then the Bucks took both games back in May. So the Bucks took two or three against the Nets during the regular season, but it's indicative of the injuries and also somewhat of the inconsistent play that the Nets were going through during that time. But right now is going to be a very interesting series. Now, these two teams have different contrasts of styles here. Now, basically, the Brooklyn Nets are a high octane offensive team. Obviously with the big three, with Kyrie, James Harden, and KD on their squad. You know, they rely those three, to hit to make the majority of their offense and rely on them to make big shots. Now, one of the big weaknesses that was exposed during the Celtics series was that they were basically beaten a lot on the glass. And so the thing that is going to be concerning is that Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, you know they're they're basically guys that can rebound, but they don't defend well in space, and so it's going to be a bit of a problem against Milwaukee because Milwaukee is much more of a fast paced type of a team that's going to look to try to outrun the bigs, and also Brooke Lopez is a very good shooter from the outside as well. And so he's going to essentially going to drag one of those bigs out of the paint, and it's going to create a situation where who's going to dominate the glass. Now, during the Miami series for Milwaukee, the Bucks pretty much killed them on the glass, and they were pretty much the bigger team, and pretty much they were dominating on the glass. And so there shouldn't be any reason at all that the Milwaukee Bucks shouldn't have an advantage on the glass. Now, the other issue is in terms of the depth. Now, missing Dante DiVincenzo for Milwaukee side of things could hurt in terms of their guard play. Now, the Brooklyn Nets are deeper in terms of the wing players and guard players. I'm specifically to the fact that you still have Joe Harris who can basically still, hit some threes. You know what I'm saying? You still have Joe Harris. You still have Tyler Johnson. Okay. You basically still have Bruce Bowen Jr. here. And so this is going to be a very, very interesting, scenario here. Now, for Milwaukee side of things, obviously everything starts and ends with Giannis. He's basically the do-it-all player for the Milwaukee Bucks. But the X factor to me is going to be Chris Middleton. Now, Middleton had a terrific series against the Miami Heat. He really did an outstanding job during that series. Now, the big concern for me in terms of Chris Middleton is, can he show up in the big moments against the prime time matchups? Historically, he's basically been in disappearing acts, which to me is a huge concern. If Chris Middleton doesn't average at least 20 or 25 points a game in this series, then it's going to be very hard for me to give the Bucks any chance because you know that the big three are going to basically make up most probably 50% or 60% of the entire offense for Brooklyn. They're gonna need at least 20 to 25 points. I'm talking about Milwaukee here to pretty much make up the 30 points that Giannis is pretty much just gonna give to them. Now, the other issue is going to be for Giannis is going to be, can he balance out his attack? We know that he's a relentless driver, that he's going to look to drive the ball to the basket at any given chance. The issue is they're going to give up the jump shot. Can he make enough of those jump shots to basically force KD or anyone else that's guarding him to come out into the paint and basically guard him out there? If he can't hit a majority of those jump shots, a good majority of them, then that plays into Brooklyn's hands. Now, the other issue for Brooklyn's side of things is that they're not strong of a defensive team as they were earlier in the year before they made the trade for James Harden. Now, they're going to look to try to outscore you, but they're a team that if you don't stay with them, they basically will try to outscore you. So it's very important for the Milwaukee Bucks, who are a better defensive team, to basically stay with them, because if you can't make up at least about 100 points against the Brooklyn Nets, then you're good. Then you're going to get blown out. Okay, because they got too much firepower on the offensive end to deal with. You're probably gonna see KD average at least 30 points. Maybe James Harden 28 to 25, and maybe 23 or 25 for Kyrie, or either or. You just never know who's going to be the one to show up in that moment of time. That's the luxury of having three dominant offensive players on one team. And so the way I look at it is, it's going to be a very tight series. Now, people are going to be saying, like, well, why don't you give Philadelphia a chance? It's very simple. Joel Embiid's injury past is really coming back to the forefront now. And I don't trust Joel Embiid to come back anytime in the playoffs, specifically when it becomes a meniscus injury in his knee. I guarantee you, he's not coming back. I don't trust the Philadelphia 76ers at this stage right now. Maybe I would have given him somewhat of a chance if Joel Embiid didn't hurt himself, but playing that extra game against Washington hurt them a lot more, because if they didn't close out that series in 4 games, maybe Joel Embiid gets enough rest that is needed to prepare himself for the second round. But now you're going against the Atlanta Hawks, who are pretty much on fire right now after basically demolishing the New York Knicks. It's going to be very difficult for me to see any scenario of Philadelphia beating Atlanta. So I have that in mind. So to me, this is the series that could possibly decide who comes out of the Eastern Conference. And so if you ask me if I were a gambling man, I would say the Brooklyn Nets in 6 games. I just think that they're the big three, what they provide offensively, and plus of the shooting that they provide at all areas, is going to be too much for the for the Milwaukee Bucks to deal with. If they can lock in on the shooters and basically somewhat limit the big three's effectiveness on the offensive end, then they probably have a chance. If To be honest with you, I think that we're gonna see the best out of the big three of the Brooklyn Nets in this series, and I think that the offense that they're gonna provide against the Milwaukee Bucks is gonna be pretty much too much to deal with. Now, it could happen. It could happen that Brooklyn pretty much doesn't have enough. Pretty much is running out of gas, but I don't see that to be the case. So this is going to be a very, very unique situation. Especially, here's the deal with this: the Milwaukee Bucks, they need a huge series from Drew Holiday. All right, now Drew Holiday, had matchup advantages against the Heat in terms of the smaller backcourt, but in this series he's gonna have to defend against James Harden. He's gonna have to defend against Kyrie Irving. He's 6'3", and Harden's 6'6" to 6'7". So I'm sorry, I had to give this advantage to Harden in that case. Now Chris Middleton is going to have to at least provide for the majority of the offense too, because without that, if Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton do not provide him the offense needed to help out Giannis, it's going to be a very, very difficult time, and very difficult for me in my mind to see Milwaukee pretty much limiting the offense of the Nets and also outscoring them. If you get what I'm saying here. And so, if I had to ask myself, um, I give the Nets the advantage in the series. I have them beating the Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games. Now, originally, I had the Bucks coming out of the East to start out the season, but right now they're the underdogs in this series, and it could work to their advantage. It could work into their advantage because not many people have Milwaukee beating the Brooklyn Nets in this series. It could work, because last 2 years when you saw the pressure and expectations of them, weighing on them, you saw the pressure cave in onto the players. This time around, they're the underdogs. So I think that it could work into their advantage, but we'll see what happens. So I have the Nets in 6 games, but definitely this is going to be a very intense series. It's going to start tonight, and we're going to see. We're going to see what the matchups is going to be. We're going to see what adjustments both coaches are going to decide to do as the series progresses. But it's going to be a very wild series. And honestly, it's going to be very interesting too, because now with no defending NBA champion in sight, this could be the series that could possibly decide the NBA championship, possibly. So that's my 2 cents. That's just my opinion. You guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you see out of this series that could play a role, in the outcome? So let me know what you all think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.